side, BLG on the red. We get the Viego ban, the LeBlanc ban, the Ziggs ban for top esports. Zeri, Rise, Ari banned by BLG was that first pick. VOlibear answered by the Trundle. And we're sticking to a lot of stock standard, what we typically see for these two teams, right? These are the focuses we usually see in the early parts of draft.
The really interesting thing, though, is with Xin Zhao coming out of the meta thanks to those nerfs, VOlibear has risen up as basically like first pick across the board here. So VOlibear, the strong early jungler that we've just talked about, that if you're looking for invades, looking to play through a strong mid jungle, VOlibear is your pick. So WeiWei trying to answer with the Trundle, see if he can get his own kind of skirmishing power, but BLG going to be leaving that counter pick mid because they want to see what Knight is going to go for first.
Got some spicy hovers there from Tian. I like it. Got to throw in some playoff spice in all actuality, but we're not going to get any spice, I don't feel like, in this one, at least in the ADC position. We were talking about the late game carries. We're talking about that insurance policy for both teams, and both carries will have their tools of the trade.
Yeah, I think the big one for here for JackeyLove is that Jinx gives him a lot of control around that bot lane priority, which they think they can then lean into Dragon. Now, Jinx did get nerfed. It isn't as easy to have that priority in that bot side because she did take a mana hit and also just the range. So it's a little bit easier for Aphelios to try and hold on to that lane, but it will still be push advantage for JackeyLove on the bot side.
Man, I'm just looking at this picture of Knight and Doggo, or Knight and FoFo, sorry, and it's just terrifying. They're both just staring at me, Dagda. It is the Viktor locked in, so a lot of strength in the late game here already for top esports.
I'm not a big fan, though. I mean, when you look at Knight's win rate, it's 37.5% on this victory. It hasn't been able to get the follow-up that you need for Tian, and Tian ends up getting caught out, ends up falling apart. Big pick here, though, coming across for BLG. The Renata has been left open for Crisp. 100% win rate on this champion. It will be locked in, and BLG do this so often. Jungle, AD carry support, ban away supports. So Nautilus going to be taken off the board, Leona taken off the board. Things that can do well into this Renata. May even actually leave the Nautilus open. We've seen Crisp was actually pretty comfortable to play into that. Maybe it'll be the Rakan instead that they decide to ban away.
It's actually kind of terrifying that Crisp is going to get his hands on this pick. We said that we would like to see top esports ban that away. They got a couple of the main ones. The Viego particularly take it off the board is important, but still this enables BLG's playstyle a lot, in specifically Crisp himself, and you already see the Tom Kench banned by BLG on the second phase. We'll see what top esports' focus is. It is the Tryndamere ban for them.
Yeah, so it feels to me like they're trying to set up for some sort of Jayce pick here for Breathe. Get rid of the Tryndamere, maybe try and get rid of something like get rid of the Graves as well as a potential here for top esports. Also, we know how good Wayward is on the Graves, though, and perfectly happy to play that into the Jayce. We've seen it countless times before, so it may just be a case of trying to make sure that they can actually go for that blind pick Jayce here, knowing that FoFo more than likely is going to be taken on this next rotation mid, just because you know you're up against the Viktor.
The Azir. So some more solo lane focus, but this time, I guess they're both particularly could be towards the mid with the way the meta has focused out here. But top esports done with their side of the bans here. We'll see what BLG want to scoop up themselves for their fourth pick. As you would expect, a little bit more of that focus towards the solo lanes. We'll see who is going to get that counter pick. It does look like they're going to leave it for Breathe and pick up the Zoe for FoFo.
Yeah, I like the Zoe here just because you're kind of looking at a lot of range on top esports side. So Zoe going to be able to help kind of alleviate some of that, give you some of that poke pressure, while also being able to set up for some of these long range engages with bubbles across walls and all that good jazz. Top esports though, seeing that it's going to be the range support, they'll go for their own range support as well. And for Wayward, I imagine they're just going to go back towards the Graves here. Wayward has like an 88% win rate on that champion over, basically he's only dropped 1 out of his 9 games he's played on it, but actually going to go over towards the Jayce. Similar style, good pressure, good long range here in top esports, and it feels like a lot of what they're trying to do is like use the zone control that the VOlibear offers, that the Viktor offers, and then try and play off this poke style, knowing that BLG right now don't actually have a ton of big engage tools. Like you're looking at maybe a Pillar, you're looking at that Renata, maybe a Moonlight Vigil from the Aphelios to really get things started.
Yeah, you don't have any tools in that fashion. No real hard click CC, right? I think that's super interesting going into this competition from Top Esports. But Top Esports composition itself is very interesting, right? We were talking so much about how much they rely on the early skirmishing, the early game. We'll see if they can utilize that here with this composition, but it definitely seems they're opting in to that late game potential here.
Yeah, I actually think BLG made a mistake here. I really think they should have gone towards the Malphite for Breathe there. And you're lacking a ton of engage tools.
Yeah,
you really need something to get this fight off. Because when you got like rapid fire cannon on the Jinx, when you got Viktor who's going to have that long range, and the Jayce, and as you said, great late game scaling on Top Esports side, it doesn't really feel like you're playing into having some sort of way to combat this. So I think BLG kind of missing the boat with a Malphite pick there. We'll have to see though, because one of the big things about Top Esports composition is that it needs to get ahead early.
Yeah.
Like if you end up in a situation where you're not quite able to get the ball rolling, you can't set up a vision at objectives, well then there's a moment of opportunity where BLG can try and take over. But if you end up kind of even Steven coming into the mid game, I'm kind of leaning over in Top Esports favor just because of their ability to play around range.
But that's what I found so interesting is, right, we were talking so much about like how this team centers so much about the early duo, the mid jungle duo, the early skirmishing. Viktor, I feel like doesn't necessarily enable that all that much, but it does give you a little bit of stability in the mid lane. I think for FoFo, that was something super important coming into this one, going against Knight, is that you need to have some of that stability, but I feel like Knight picking up this Viktor discounts a lot of that. You're going to have that stability on Knight's side that is hard to play against for BLG. So as you said, it's going to be a tall task. I mean, obviously Top Esports, if they can get ahead early, they can find some good things. Their late game scaling is huge, but BLG, it's all about execution. It's all about combinations, and it's all about Summoner's Rift as we hit it for game 1 of this best of 5 Top Esports versus BLG. Loser goes home.
The super team of LPL 2022 versus the summer champions from 2020, the rebuilt Top Esports. For BLG, try to prove that this super team can push them further than they've ever gone before. 4th place is the highest in 2019 that BLG have gone, and they would like to keep that higher in 2022. For Top Esports, try to show that with Rookie of the Year Wayward coming in, a Rookie of the Split, I should say, Wayward coming in, with the rebuild around Knight and JackeyLove, that this team can go back to former glory.
Exactly. They need to capture some of that brightness from before, and especially, I still find it so interesting, the conversation about Top Esports, in the fact that we were talking about the rebuild, but it's also been a change in structure a little bit, Dagda. You know, change in shot callers, moving away from JackeyLove as the primary shot caller, moving into Tian's world of education, it feels like. It's an interesting shift.
Yeah, when you saw JackeyLove join the team in 2021 spring, like, he was touted as the shot caller. This was the guy that's coming in to take the reins, but he's been passing those reins to Tian slowly but surely over the course of the split, because Tian has kind of come in and gone, right, I'm going to dictate a lot of what we do in the early stages of the game. You can see the difference when Tian is in versus when Xiaopeng is into the mid-game shot calling as well. So certainly Tian has kind of stepped in as that mainstay, the person that they are listening to on this squad, and we'll have to see if they're going to do the same here in the early stages. Tian, you've got this strong early skirmisher in the VOlibear, something that can gank very efficiently as well. Even go with the press the attack to make sure you can get in your face and win out on those 1v1s. So this just screams to me that we're going to see aggression from Tian in these early stages.
Yeah, that's something that was, evidently clear is when he does get these skirmish heavy junglers, he is invading. He is up in your face trying to make something happen. Obviously Knight trying to join him in those situations, but as the shot caller, he is the one that goes ahead and does it, and we'll see if that kind of ends up in anything early game for Tian himself.
I think the hardest part for Tian is just not having pressure in the mid lane.
Yeah.
Like, Knight will fall behind with FoFo just on Zoe, gets great push, even as you can see, picking up annoying things like the Everfrost to make his life even worse. So it feels like to me a lot of what is going to have to happen for Tian here is like impacting mid lane, moving up towards Wayward in the top side, maybe potentially looking for dives as well off of like pressure on bot side, but we'll have to see. I feel like, at least for the moment, top esports are going to be waiting a lot on level 6s to be hit, maybe even for Tian, so that then he can turn off the tower with the Stormbringer, and then they can look for plays.
And obviously, all spotlight should be on this mid lane early, but Junglers has a side-eye. Breathe almost gets solo killed, but now Wayward has overextended himself, has to flash, but the chops are there, and first blood to Breathe for BLG.
Brilliant job from WeiWei, just going for that full clear, and a little bit of a mistake from Wayward. Not respecting the fact that with the full clear and also going for the scuttle, that Trundle was going to be on this top side of the map and gets caught out. And now you've got that first blood going over towards Breathe, giving him, well, excuse the pun, but a bit of breathing room in this top side.
I knew it was coming. I still loved it. Every single second of it, Dagda. We'll see a replay of that top lane kill.
Yeah, because you can see Wayward actually has played this really well from the early stages. Like, allowed it to be pushed in means that then he can actually use that range advantage against Breathe and poke him down, but just going aggressive at the wrong time, not respecting WeiWei's clear, and giving that early first blood to BLG. And this isn't something unusual for BLG. They've actually got a very high first blood rate in the LPL. Sitting third highest at 58%, but it's not exactly like they're going to continue to force these plays. This is now just a case of, okay, again, like buying that space, buying themselves a little bit of comfort so they can take this slower paced game and hit hard in the mid game around these team fights.
And I think it's so interesting, right? We were talking earlier on about how with the, we get a little picture-in-picture of the bot lane scuffle going down. Actually heavily traded in favor of BLG down there. But what I was going to say is, you know, we get to see a lot of the aggression in the top lane already. But we talked about in the draft, like BLG do not have a lot of forward engage. They don't have any point and click CC. But if they get ahead, does that even matter? Like if Breathe has an advantage in top side, he's going to rule the side lanes.
Yeah, I feel like with this composition, BLG, I've kind of done the same as what we saw against Rare Adam Game 1. Kind of need to get the ball rolling early, because if you don't, you're not able to get set up on objectives and it becomes really difficult to make plays. WeiWei and Chris though trying to already set that up.
Chris on the roam mark as well. Sleepy Trouble Bubble does connect. Knight has to flash. Big paddle star across the bow, but won't come up with any kills. Just a lot of damage.
Nice play from Crisp as well. Ends up taking the handshake and pushing Mark into Knight, so you guarantee the damage from FoFo to hit onto Knight, and that's going to force Knight out of lane, so you get control over mid lane, and BLG can move across the dragon. So thus far, BLG playing a really smart early game and making sure that they're able to use the pressure that they have across multiple lanes to set themselves up for success.
I'm so impressed, and honestly, maybe a little bit of that momentum coming from the earlier series, but Doggo needs to use some of that momentum to get out of the way. JackeyLove putting in some decent work onto him. Dragon number 1 will go over to WeiWei. Was not contested by top esports, and we'll have our first neutral objective on the board.
Yeah, I think we're still seeing, though, the change that BLG opted into in playoffs. Again, we were saying, look, FoFo wants to step up. This seems to be him going into playoffs and saying, I want to be the carry. I'm sick of playing second fiddle for everyone. Give me the resources and I will step up. And we saw it against Rare Adam. This guy had a phenomenal series, and now once more we're seeing BLG play heavily around this mid lane to give FoFo the resources that they need. It's already paid off for the Dragon, but we need to see it continue to pay off. I want to look at FoFo and see if he's starting to move around the map, see if he can move down towards this bot lane, and especially with Knight playing on the back foot with no flash, if they can make more plays happen around this mid lane.
And I think it's so interesting when you're looking at BLG itself. As we'll take a moment to pause while WeiWei tries to go for a gank. Nice little flash there from JackeyLove does get him out of the way. A lot of trading back onto Chris, though. That extra little bit given back by top esports. But on BLG's side, something so interesting, right? It's a little bit of LMS PCS pride here for the squad, right? Doggo, FoFo, they need to make something happen for themselves. And as you're saying, FoFo taking the reins, taking control, feels like the right moment.
Yeah, especially when you look at FoFo in the past, right? Like LMS 2019, won this on J Team, but since moving to the LPL, he's been trying to prove that he wasn't just a big fish in a small pond, that he actually had the opportunity to be one of the best in the LPL, and we touted him as one of the best mid laners in the LPL all throughout 2021, but he hasn't got the accolades to match. And now coming on to BLG, it feels like that's what the goal is for FoFo, and especially for Doggo as well, as Doggo already kind of taking a beating on towards JackeyLove. Doggo wants to prove that, look, he was second place all the time he's on Beyond Gaming. But hitting JackeyLove hard like that, he's proven he doesn't want to be second place in any more regions.
Absolutely. And Doggo obviously taking full command of the bottom lane now as himself and for BLG. It is the right timing for him to kind of try to spread his wings a little bit with FoFo, with the rest of the team itself. See Tian on his way down here, maybe just to deflect against this push here against BLG, but it still seems like BLG coming out on top in some of these lanes, and honestly a very, very good early start to it, but Mega Death Rocket's going to stop the backs, and Tian's trying to get a little alcove gaming going on here. Don't know if he can take a 1v2 though against this combo. He'll just stop their backs.
It's actually a really good stop though, because what we've said already is that top esports do not care in the slightest about first Rift Herald. 42% of the time, they only get it, they just don't care. What they're actually trying to do here is put pressure on towards Doggo and Crisp, deny them the ability to defend against this bot lane push. And when you've got JackeyLove and Mark here, you're going to be able to tear through this bot lane tower. That's why Doggo's kind of feeling the pressure to stick around. But look at Tian, he's gone, wait a second, you're still here? I'm gonna gank.
I have a button that stops your tower from doing stuff. Do you know what you've done? He's going to go ahead and use that Stormbreaker. Doggo gets stunned up. The Sky Splitter connects as well. And Tian gets the kill. Response from top esports.
And Doggo just needed to give it. He needed to say, look, we're going to lose the tower, but BLG, we can make the play tops. But unfortunately, he doesn't. But BLG will still respond.
No minions here. WeiWei just going straight up under tower. Does not matter. Gets the kill. Second kill for BLG. He does have the Rift Herald, but not going to use it just yet.
So may actually try to use that to get some of the gold back for Doggo. You can see there, but a 400 gold lead opening up for JackeyLove off of just that wave that he's now going to push in again, but also the turret plates that he's taken. So you really need to try and even up this matchup, because this is one of the big things about Jinx and Aphelios is just whoever gets that lead, whoever gets the Gale Force first tends to take over in the lane, tends to take over in team fights as well. And when we're looking at top esports, a squad that wants to be ahead, a squad that can play at range, you want to make sure that you're ahead in that bot side for BLG.
And I just am so in love with the state of ADC right now. We saw the aggressive Moonlight
I think
Vigil
you're one of the few people.
from Dagda. I am, but you know what? I'm a stan, all right? I will hold by it. The fact that we see all the aggression, ADCs being the engagers, we're getting Gale Forces out of nowhere, ultimates used off cooldown. This is the aggression I love to see because it fits the LPL. It fits the style that I feel like the LPL has grown to know and love. And the ADCs joining that cause, joining that aggression is always beautiful to me.
And you know what? I like aggression as well. I just wish I could see it in this game from Tian. Tian has been completely out of sorts here. We talked about this from draft, right? Like, we wanted things like the Vex, the Rise, the Ari for Night, these things that can have priority and play with Tian, but Tian thus far, not having presence in the mid lane, not really feeling comfortable to go for plays elsewhere. Like, yes, he had that one stop of the backs, but hasn't had any sort of impact apart from that. We'll have to see, though, as we look at this Dragon. Top esports look like they want to try and contest this, but no presence in mid lane. Feels like this is going to be another BLG objective.
It does indeed. And that's something about BLG that we did notice, right? They do typically set their timers on neutral objectives. It's wait till neutral objective comes up. Let's make a move. Let's make something happen. But it was a lot of the reactivity in the first 10, 15 minutes that we were looking at for BLG. Here, they're being proactive as Tian does not get the smite on that Scuttle Crab, so won't be able to get that one. But it's like the tables have turned a little bit.
Yeah, and one of the things for BLG, and you'll actually notice it on the map right now, is that they don't tend to play aggressive because a lot of the times their vision is very defensive. And you can kind of look at the mini-map here and see, hey, look, not really many forward wards. They've got a couple in river, they've got some behind their own side of the map and top, but that tends to be the BLG story. When you look at BLG, though, this is why they can get caught out, like we saw against Rare when they go for plays. But when Tian's not a part of the problem, where Tian's kind of just farming his way through the jungle at his own pace, well, now BLG can make these aggressive plays, and we're seeing it now down towards bot side. We said that WeiWei would want to try and open up this gold back in towards Doggo, and that's exactly where BLG are putting their focus.
Yeah, we're putting a lot of eggs in the mid lane basket, the spotlight between mid-jungle duo, but we've known all along for BLG, Doggo is the carry, especially in the late game. If you can get resources to Doggo, that is extremely crucial for BLG. WeiWei realizing they need to get him up a little bit more than he already, or at least back into a state of game that feels confident for Doggo. So I like that focus from BLG. Obviously not too much coming of it, but it shows that the direction is clear for BLG in terms of getting objectives, making sure that Doggo is comfortable, and now we do have the Gale Forces completed.
And I'm going to be keeping my eyes again on these AD carries as well, because we're getting to 2 minutes away from that second Rift. Yeah, we're getting 2 minutes away from that first Rift Herald spawn, and we know that top esports are going to fight for that. They do it almost 100% of the time. Like when I was watching their VODs, I think there was maybe one time that they didn't actually fight for this objective. And the big thing here is about trying to push in bot with JackeyLove and then transition up to that. So I want to keep my eyes on both Tian and WeiWei to see if they can try and give some pressure down towards this bot side, allow their team to have control over this bot so they can start to rotate up towards this next neutral objective.
And I think that's going to be a big temperature check for top esports. Are they feeling different? Is this kind of a wonky situation for them? Do they feel confident in themselves? We will see if they stick to the tried and true nature of themselves that we've seen so long, and especially seeing, Tian up that way. We'll see if that does end up in going that way. A minute and 10 seconds just about. But here's the aggression. The Gale Force for Doggo. He's going to get the kill. The Calibrum seals the deal. Mark almost dies as well. Doggo in some trouble against Knight, though. Doggo wants to go forward. He can't get the kill, and Knight cleans him up.
No bailout from Chris, but Doggo was still going forward. Either way, you draw that TP down to the bot side, you trade in the 1-for-1. We'll have to keep our eyes on FoFo to see how he wants to try and respond, because it looks like just pushing out mid, getting control over top side and looking for a potential Rift Herald seems to be the game plan here for BLG, because if BLG get this next Rift Herald, they slam that in mid, they get priority. Oh, hang on, breathe.
Yeah, that knockback's going to be huge. The collateral damage at the same time. Tian going under tower, and there's the Sky Splitter Stormbringer.
Wait a second.
He can't get him. You can say all the names, but the bear still goes down. Mega Death Rocket here. Can it do it? It's going to hit. No! Breathe with the side steps.
That was missed by a sliver. That was so close to Breathe going down, not once, but twice. Breathe, managing to outplay Tian, sidesteps the rocket, and top esports
I gotta see
are
this,
crushed.
Dagda. This is what I want to see.
Doggo, we said, look, when you get the Gale Force, this matchup for Aphelios becomes so much easier, especially if you can separate them out. And you can see there, Chris had already used the bailout onto Doggo, so no bailout necessary as Knight nearly goes down to the Aphelios as well. But that was such a big passage of play for BLG. Wins on the bot side, kill for Braid in the top lane, and control of the map as Mark.
They need to be careful here, though. They are finding themselves in a sticky situation as Dragons spawning about 25 seconds from the soul point. FoFo goes forward, and JackeyLove is immediately obliterated from the fight.
This is BLG dominating top esports. Our predictions are looking pretty damn rough right now as BLG are commanding the mid lane. The poke doesn't land for FoFo, but it doesn't matter. BLG have their pick of the litter. Dragon in 5, Rift Herald is up, and it looks like BLG want to keep on stacking those dragons.
They get to soul point and unlock so much pressure around the map. So many decisions to be made that can go a lot easier for BLG. We will see Rift Herald on the board. Top esports not going for it as WeiWei takes the dragon. This is soul point for BLG, given over by top.
But this doesn't feel like a top esports game.
It doesn't at all.
This is where we're looking and going, like, I like the VOlibear is still very strong in the skirmish and in dueling, but you need to be able to play around that. And Tian hasn't really had an impact in these early stages. Now Trundle is just going to be able to provide a little bit more. Well, I wouldn't say provide more, but certainly will be stronger in team fights just from where he's positioned, being able to get in with these pillars, like stealing away a bunch of stats from Tian is going to make this VOlibear pretty much negligible when you come into fights. You're looking at the rest of the map as well. Breathe having a good advantage for himself on his top side, plus the 2 kills alongside that CS. Top esports just haven't played through the strength of their early game, and now you're playing into the strength of BLG, which is fights at these neutral objectives. Now, top esports will get second Rift Herald, as the book commands, but does. BLG may still look for fights.
Yeah, the temperature check, top esports are still top esports, all right? We know that they're still the same team, at least. But that's what's so interesting is like, we were talking in the draft, they have a lot of late game scaling, they have a lot of that insurance later on. Knight needs to be communicating and cohesive with Tian. Knight has been very quiet in the mid lane. And yes, he's on the Viktor. Yes, the late game is going to be crazy, or you have to be careful, but it's been such an interesting tale so far that the mid lane, although we put so much focus on it, has really not been the focus all that much.
And this is why I don't like Knight on the Viktor. He just doesn't actually have the impact that we kind of need from him. And when you look at like Knight's kill participation, he has the highest kill participation on top esports. And the reason for that is because when he gets on picks like the Ryze, the Vex, the Ahri, he's playing with Tian, he's invading the jungle, they're looking for picks. He like will set himself up in side lanes, push in waves, and then look to group with Wayward to find picks on isolated top laners and just completely catch their opponents unaware. But that's not what we get when he's on Viktor. He doesn't have that same mobility, he doesn't have that same map pressure, and especially in the early stages, we're seeing the mid jungle for top esports doesn't exist.
And he's just being pushed out of his own jungle. He's going to try to get the red buff, but does not succeed. 4 members strong for BLG in the enemy jungle will make it so. They transition back to mid lane. 30 seconds on the Baron spawn here. Gotta expect a little bit more vision up that way now with that objective on the board, but it's all about mid lane. It's all about trying to get this unlocked for BLG.
And I think that's the unfortunate thing for BLG about giving over that other Rift Herald. It now becomes a little bit difficult to try and crack open this mid lane turret. Now, BLG shouldn't have too much of an issue. I mean, all they're really going to do is start to like push out these waves and sides, then start to kind of group up, see if they can get deep vision on this top side, and you can then always look to kind of brute force your way into the tower, especially if JackeyLove is left on his own underneath the tower. At least at the moment, JackeyLove has both of his summoner spells available, which means he should have a relative safety if BLG try to make some sort of aggressive play in mid, but you can be damn sure that, 2 minutes time until this soul comes up for BLG, they're going to be gunning for that, especially when you look at people like, WeiWei, who is able to pump that ultimate and just leg it down the lane at you. It becomes really tough for top esports if this Cloud Soul does actually go across. This is a pretty good Cloud Soul for BLG.
I appreciate the picture-in-picture there, Bree, trying to get the Scuttle Crab with the collateral damage. Did not make it so, but here's the mid lane siege yet again. Just the wave clear. A little bit too strong from top esports, and especially JackeyLove moving forward. Needs to be real careful, though, because there is a Zoe on the other side, and it's piloted by FoFo.
You can see, though, that top esports are so wary about trying to move in here. Because as you said, Zoe, good poke, but also if Crisp is just out of vision, you can get that big ult.
The Sleepy Trouble Bubble did connect onto Knight, but no damage will connect. There is Breathe in the side lane. Big accelerated shock blast hits Doggo. Mega Death Rocket will go wide, but tier 2 tower in the bot lane goes to BLG.
And Doggo's fine. He's been able to heal up off the Raptors because Aphelios is silly. So now BLG, still established in this river, you can see their vision is slowly starting to creep into top esports side. Slowly starting to figure out, okay, well, if you want to try and run from jungle into river, you've got to group up. You've got to come through one of these choke points. And Crisp, you can be sure, is going to be waiting over these walls with that big ultimate on the Renata. If that connects onto several people, it means that FoFo can set up for easy trouble bubbles, Breathe can get big ultimates across the team, and even WeiWei just buys him a little bit of time to, angle up the pillar, see where he wants to try and set up the slowing field so BLG can chase down top esports.
That is still the crucial question, though, right? Like, BLG have to find unique ways to start off the fights. It's the pillar, the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, the Moonlight Vigil, as you were saying in the draft. And that's where I do want to beg the question here for top esports. Are you still confident in that late game scaling, Dagda? Do you still feel comfortable, even if they are about 4,000 gold in the deficit, that they've gotten to a point where when those big 5v5s come up, that they'll be able to handle anything?
It's a lot easier for BLG with the fact that they're ahead. When you're ahead, it's very easy for you to try like bait top esports in. You can actually like set up on objectives and then get like the Renata ult across them. Like if you're walking into the potential grab to Moonlight Vigil, it becomes a lot easier. Things like this are just overall simpler for BLG, and that's why you can see top esports, they're aware that they don't have control over river, so they don't even try and contest soul. There's like, look, we'll give the Cloud Soul, we're just going to look for Elder, we're going to look for things like Baron. There's no point in us trying to fight right now when we are 100% walking into our deaths. Instead, we're going to look to try and play towards that scaling. Now, it is getting there. You've got like the rapid fire cannon for JackeyLove, Wayward's on 2 items. They can get decent poke when they're set up, but they're just not in a position to try and do so yet.
Well, I think one of the scariest points is Breathe in the side lane, right? We've already seen him getting free shots on towers. He's already 2.5 items deep in the lethality Graves build. And it just gets super scary if you are sending one member over there to deal with him. He has now completed the Serpent's Fang as his 3rd item. So that shielding not going to be helping top esports all that much in those fights to try to catch him out. We see top esports moving in to try to get vision around this top side of the map, try to get vision around the Baron buff here, because it is something that I do feel like can be burned down pretty quickly by BLG, especially, you know, if Graves, Doggo, or if Breathe with the Graves and Doggo with the Aphelios are on point with it. We'll see as that ebb and flow of the vision kind of goes. We are getting a little bit more of the stagnant mid game here, but I feel like that helps top esports in their factors.
I would agree, except it's BLG biding their time. It's BLG who are actually sitting there going, right, we're going to wait for Breathe to push in. Breathe has built for side lane pressure. Breathe is built for the 1v1. He just wants to push towers, push waves, and this lethality build is like lethality on Graves and lethality in general is just really good at clearing waves because minions don't have a lot of resistances. So you can clear these waves incredibly quickly, you can do a lot of damage to towers, and you can try and kill Wayward.
WeiWei going. There's that engage, the wonky engage, and it somehow semi-works. JackeyLove almost dies. Moonlight Vigil goes on to Tian. Mega Death Rockets, ultis everywhere. Nobody's going to die just yet. We get real close to Tian and JackeyLove going down, but that's that lack of engage that does come back to bite BLG.
Yeah, it's still, though, like, you can see how it works, right? BLG, we said bide their time. They push in bot, then they start to get their vision control in this topside jungle, roam in, and Zoe in these positions is happy as Larry. She's got a ton of walls to work around. She's got the ability to pop in, get a bit of damage off, and all BLG are playing around vision.
They're just trying to catch out people. They don't even care. They're just moving forward. Knight is scared, but doesn't burn the flash. Showing some calm, cool, and collectedness there for TES. As BLG were just trying to force something before they got their backs off.
Yeah, not quite able to make it happen though, so they will just look for the reset. And this does give a bit of time for top esports to get their waves back in order. You can see Tian starting to move up towards his top side, and Breathe is still positioned on this bot lane. I think he's just fishing for if Wayward goes that little bit too aggressive, but I imagine he will reset after he clears this wave now. And again, you've already got the vision starting to be established by BLG. Look at the top side. You've already got River in their favor. They're just waiting for wards to time out on the top side, and then they'll start to progressively move their way in to that top jungle of top esports and make sure that they're able to set up for Baron.
And speaking of Breathe himself, right, it's so interesting to see this guy's adaptation from OMG here onto BLG, and especially, you know, being able to make a name for himself. I feel like, at least in this season itself, showing that he is a semi-stable top laner in the LPL. Maybe he's not all the glitz and glams of the Shies, the Wayward crazy solo kills, but Breathe himself has been a pivotal piece to BLG's function in the fact that they need to rely on topside having some stability.
Yeah, and he was a pivotal piece when he played on WE as well, and getting a lot of attention from Beishang up towards him. But now Breathe looking good on BLG, maybe not as in your face, but certainly able to have these moments as BLG will just sneak this Baron away. And top esports, there's nothing that they could do about it.
Every objective except for one Rift Herald has gone over to BLG, and we said BLG were an objective-focused team. Well, I didn't think it was this much, as they have gotten almost 100% of the neutral objectives. And it just feels like they have taken control of those facts, as well as we do see Wayward get the solo tower in the bottom side. He's going to keep pushing, but Breathe is already onto his second tier 2, and that's a nice chunk of change.
This is the same thing we saw from BLG against Rare Atom, though. You know, take it slow, batten down the hatches, and when you get to the mid-game, that's where they come alive, playing the macro steps, making sure that they're able to get control of vision, look for objectives, and as you say, every neutral, apart from one, has gone their way. And top esports, we're still kind of left scratching our heads going, when are you going to get into the series, lads?
Oh no, Wayward. He will not be stopped. He doesn't die. Oh my god. He throws up the emote. I can't believe Wayward just made it out of there. Nice decision making from him, though.
Yeah, just about able to get away, and it's crucial that he did, because with 40 seconds until this Elder Dragon, if you're down a man for top esports, that's game over. They are still in a rough spot, though. They have no control over the river. They have no control over where BLG are positioned on the map. And when you've got Baroned up creeps as well to deal with, it becomes very easy for BLG to start pushing in this mid lane and then fall back towards that dragon.
And you see TES themselves are just semi-terrified, it seems. They are keeping up the turtle. They're keeping 5 men strong in the mid lane because they need to keep priority there for this Elder Dragon. As you said, if Elder goes down to BLG, they are just going to shove their lead into TES and win the game potentially. And you can no longer just let these neutral objectives go the wayside for top esports.
And how do you try and poke as top esports when you can't even see what you're hitting? Every time you just see BLG ducking back into Fog of War, ducking back into Safety of River, and Knight can't really poke. Wayward doesn't know where to get his Accelerate Shock Blast, and JackeyLove's right clicks ain't going to do much. So
they're split.
BLG.
Top esports are completely split here. They have sent other 2 members on the other side. Tian is just dead. You cannot do that in the face of adversity like that, and BLG capitalized.
Jungler's down. Top esports, they need to now look for a miracle play, but you're not going to try and smite this away from WeiWei, bar some massive mistake.
Oh my god!
And you can see BLG aware, they're not even going to give him the opportunity pulling that dragon out of the pit, making sure that top esports can't get in, and FoFo playing bouncer, pushing top esports back.
Bubble. Like, he just died outright to it. Oh my god, that did like half of his health. All right,
That's insane. That's insane.
Oh man, the setup there for BLG, absolutely huge. The fact that Mark was seen with Wayward going into the red side jungle, they capitalized on it so fast. And just like that, the entirety of top esports is dusted here. They don't have anything to stand on. They're standing on a rickety bridge here in game number 1, and they're about to fall straight through the cracks. BLG onto the Nexus towers here with 2 inhibs going down back to back. Knight gets caught out. The Elder Dragon wings roar to life. And it's BLG taking it to top esports in their first game of the LPL 2022 spring playoffs. BLG, momentum is king.
BLG played that incredibly. Setting up in these early stages, making sure that WeiWei was able to gank top. He got in bot, was making sure that he could turn around mid. WeiWei was everywhere in these early stages. And from that point forward, what did top esports do? Tian didn't exist this game. He basically wasn't able to get involved in this VOlibear at all. Knight, you could see as well, Viktor just doesn't really do what top esports want to do. And when top esports are kind of put off to the side, where they're put into this kind of passive state, that's where BLG are comfortable. Play towards the mid game, play towards neutrals, set themselves up so they can actually play a macro-orientated game. And I mean, not even just this iteration of BLG, every iteration of BLG since I joined the LPL in 2020 has played this slow-paced game, and it's coming out on top here against top esports.
I love it. All the puns intended here tonight. But yeah, it's actually crazy that we saw the lack of TES, honestly, in all actuality. Like, I want to say it was a specific member, but the whole team just doesn't feel like they were the same that we saw them the last time. And obviously, it's a best of 5. You have a lot to glean off this first game, but it's got to be focused on what is comfortable for top esports. Where do you see that come through? Because not seeing Tian go for any of those objectives, not seeing him be able to skirmish at all with WeiWei is not what you want to see for top esports if they're going to be successful.
Now, I want to talk about 2 things with this draft for top esports. Because 1, I think top esports had the better draft. I think top esports should have been able to win this game. But this is not a top esports draft.
It is not.
Mark is not an enchanter player. When I think of Mark, I think of Leonas, I think of Nautiluses, I think of engaged supports. When I think of the mid lane for Knight, his Viktor can carry games 100% and has in the past. But this is not the way that top esports have been able to find success, especially with this iteration of top esports. And even for Wayward, I think he tried his best in that top lane. Honestly, I'm not going to fault him too much for that early mistake. Rookie, first time in playoffs, there's going to be some nerves there. I want to see top esports go back to the drawing board. I want to see engaged supports from Mark. I want to see things like the Nautilus coming back out. I want to see more priority given towards Knight's picks in the mid lane. We saw the ban away of the Ahri. The Ryze was taken off the board as well. Vex could still be something that slots into that role. Just getting things that are more comfortable for top esports so they can play the early game. Otherwise, you can see what BLG are able to do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was on WeiWei, just being super proactive early on. We talked a little bit about it, but BLG usually very reactive in the early parts of the game, but he definitely turned it on in that fashion. Also, the fact that they let through the Renata for Crisp, that 100% win rate still staying strong. Got to make sure to take care of that one for sure. We'll see what Top Esports can do to iterate on their first game draft. See if they can come back swinging. We'll be right back with game number 2 of this best of 5. The spring regular season was extremely fierce. We have so many evenly matched teams. It's almost impossible to tell who will rise and who will fall from the team standings alone. However, that is what makes the LPL the most interesting league, isn't it?
I mean, 33 kills